It's the guy doing things, and we are back with another episode. This one is an interesting one, looking forward to it. Talking to Trevor DeRose from Lost Boy Wines. Such a cool, interesting story that brought him to South Africa, and we're talking all about that, and a little surprise at the end. So thank you so very much for joining. If you're in the southern hemisphere like me, hope you have your coffee ready. If you are not, then we don't like you. No, that's just a joke. Hope you get settled in. This is The Guy Doing Things, episode 36. Let's go! Welcome to The Guy Doing Things. I'm so honored to have you on here. I've checked out your Instagram page and your website, and the story was just so intriguing. I could not have an interview with you. So welcome very much, and thanks for taking our time in your schedule to be here.
Yeah, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So firstly, I just want to know where you're from originally, or I know now, but if you'd like to tell the listeners and what brought you on this journey so far away from your homeland.
Yeah, so I'm from a small little town in Northern California. Area's called Tahoe, if anybody's familiar with that neck of the woods. I went to university there, University of Nevada, and then I started racing mountain bikes professionally when I was around 18 and did that throughout university, and then moved down to Los Angeles once I graduated to be closer to the big bike brand that I raced for down there. And now I stay in Hansby, about 2.5 hours southeast of Cape Town.
Okay, so I'm originally Afrikaans, so I know you've probably met a lot of Afrikaans people.
Yeah.
So when you said Hansby, I was like, you mean Gansby?
Yeah, I mean, no, I at least don't say Gansby anymore.
Yes,
so
yes, that you're getting there. No, I'm just mocking you. That was just cool to hear that. I was like, where is that? And I was like, oh no, it's Gansby. Now this is actually nothing to do with the podcast, but I love mountain biking. So I just want to know, who did you race with, and did you actually do the XCO World Cups, or where did the cycling take you?
Yeah, so I started out in university racing for Specialized. And so throughout U23, I raced for Specialized. I did a few World Cups, mostly just did in America, it's called the Pro Cross Country Tour, Pro XCTs. That was my big focus. And my last year in U23, I did a couple World Cups. And once I graduated from U23 and was just regular elite, I got this deal with KTM. And so I raced for them for the rest of my career, and it was mostly like multi-day stage races, like La Ruta, if you've heard of that one. It was like the first proper multi-day mountain bike race that they started doing. That was a big one on the schedule, like Tour of Portugal, Tour of Algarve, just a bunch of multi-day stage races was the big focus. And then I would do because I started out in moto. That's how I kind of came full circle and ended up back with KTM.
Yeah.
I started out racing moto for them in high school, and I love enduro and that type of mountain biking as well. So I started doing some of those events in my later stage of racing just for fun.
Okay, and now you're doing it for the fun, and obviously you're doing it in South Africa, which is super interesting. So what brought you to specifically South Africa? Was it our was it our mountains?
Man, I'll be honest. I love it here now, but before I came here, I knew nothing about South Africa. So there wasn't anything specific that brought me here, except for the time of the year that the wine harvest happened. So we'll rewind a little bit. While I was still in Los Angeles, in 2015, I broke my hand, and like right at the start of the season, and it shouldn't have been a big deal, but then I kept having things come up with it. So like 6 months later, I had to get surgery on it. Didn't heal right. 6 months after that, had to do surgery again. It still didn't heal right. 6 months after that, I started training again, re-broke it. And like this whole thing just kind of kept dragging on for years, honestly. And so in 2015, I had a lot of free time on my hands in Los Angeles. And across the street from where KTM's headquarters were, there was like this like cooperative winery where like small producers all throughout Southern California would bring their grapes, make their wines there. And so I just started hanging out there. I mean, I'd been interested in wine like through racing, like traveling around Europe and stuff. And I'd gone to some beautiful wine regions, and I was very interested in it. Really didn't know anything about how it was made. So I started hanging out there. It was very interesting to me. And then I started like really loving it. And I had all this time, so I started making some of my own wines. And 2016, I started like properly making some of my own wines there. And then this just went on for years. So by the time 2018 came around, I was just burnt out on like trying to continue on. I just rebroken my hand that year, and I was over bike racing more than anything. I was over Los Angeles. I just wanted to be out of the city. Like I come from this little mountain town. That's like what got me into mountain biking. I just wanted to be out of LA. I wanted to like totally change my life. And but I mean, I've been like thinking about it for a long time. So I Google where in the world does a wine harvest happen, like right now, because there's like one time of the year where there's not a lot of bike races. So I was kind of like 1 foot out of the bike race and stuff. Like I was like, if this doesn't work out, at least I can come back. So I Google where in the world does a wine harvest happen, like January to April, and South Africa came up. And so I didn't even know that like South Africa was a big winery. I knew nothing. I knew nothing about South Africa in general. I knew nothing about South African wines. So like that night I walked down the road to like the big bottle store there, got my first bottle of South African wine. It was
Can you remember what it was?
I can't. It's actually, it's a key part of this whole story actually, but there's a G in it. So you got to bear with me. Simonsuk.
Okay, Simonsuk. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Oh my word, that's so cool.
A bottle of their Shannon. And so I tried. I'm like, man, this is great. So I start looking for harvest positions. I just wanted to do a harvest. So I started looking online for like positions. I don't even get like an email back from anybody, like nobody. And so I'm like about to just give up on this whole thing. And then I randomly one day see this article online that like the former Simonsuk winemaker is leaving to come start this new winery out where I am now in the Cape Agulhas appellation. And his contact info was on the bottom of this article. So I just emailed the guy. He's like, do you need some help for harvest? He's like, yeah, come on out. And so a couple weeks later, I phone him from the airport, and I'm like, hey, I'm here. And he's like, no way. Like this American actually came here. And so I worked this first harvest with the winery's called Lomond. It's out where I am now, just out past Hansby. And I mean, it was gnarly. Like the brand new winery. When I got here, like the tanks are still outside. There's no roof on the winery. The whole winemaking team, like nobody's ever worked in a winery before. It was a properly hectic first harvest, and for like a good portion of it, I was like, man, once I finish this, I'm never coming back to this country. And then, but then it was like during that, it was like on some of like the worst nights that I started to really fall in love with this place. Like, back home, you have a bad day at work. Everyone just wants to go home and like turn on the TV and be by themselves. Whereas here, you have a bad day, which is like a totally different type of. It's a much worse day than a bad day back home. And still, like it'll be midnight, and instead of going home, we all just pull up a chair in the dirt parking lot and start a fire. And like just the values and the community and like everything is just completely different than it's like everything that I was lacking in Los Angeles. And I just fell in love with it, and had this idea to start making my own wines and do my own thing. So I worked it out with the owners of Lomond, and so yeah, now I rent out space in their winery, make all my wines here, farm all my grapes here, and live here. So that's my
awesome.
life now.
And from that story, I can hear that there's something that stood out for me on your website. You mentioned something, passion into purpose, which is super cool. So I want to know where that came from. I think I can pick some of it up on what you just said, but where did that come from, and how are you implementing it in your winemaking process and in your daily life?
Yeah, I think there's like a couple different ways to answer this, but I think like one of the biggest things that I found out that I was lacking in Los Angeles is like a purpose greater than just making money at bike races. And I think lacking that purpose is also where I started to lose my passion for mountain biking. So it was a big thing to me when I came here, and when I decided to start doing my own wines here, I never wanted to kind of like lose sight of what I was doing. I always wanted to, there needed to be something bigger than just making wine in front of me there. And so like what it means for me specifically now with my winemaking is some of the greatest things that kept me in this country. One of them was wildlife conservation. So I started working with the local Fambos Conservancy here to build mountain bike trails in the area. And they have like a wildlife project in their conservancy. And so I started working with this guy who like focuses on the Cape leopard. And I mean, the work he does just blew me away. And not even like just the work he does, but the like genuine passion for nature and for the animals here and for just the well-being of the environment in this beautiful part of the world. And I mean, it blew me away. It was unbelievable. Like, it's so genuine, so authentic. And the work that him and people like him are doing is so valuable. I mean, it's like you can see the results. And so I wanted to bring that into my brand. So, wherever this goes in 10 years or shorter than that, longer than that, whatever. But, I'm working towards something where I can like see, like, I contributed this to this. And I didn't just make wine. Like I provided, or I was there for something that I believed in.
That's so awesome. That's so good to hear. And I wondered, making the leap from mountain biking to winemaking. Initially it wasn't a leap because it was a cross from KTM. So that wasn't such a leap. Yeah. But are there any lessons that you took from professional mountain biking that you are implementing in your winemaking, or are they totally different? You put them in two different boxes, and when you do biking, you do biking. When you make wine, you make wine.
No, actually there's, I mean, you ride bikes, so I feel like you can, it's always the cyclists that kind of get it and can see the connection between the two, because they're actually very similar. And so it makes a lot of sense why I'm not a person that can like kind of dabble in something. If I do it, then I go a little bit overboard, and I'm totally doing that with my winemaking right now, which is good. That's so cool. I like to be like that. But yeah, they're actually very, very similar. Like the cycling takes so much work that nobody sees. They see like the actual event, and they if you win the race, lose the race, whatever, like people see that, but they don't see everything that goes into it beforehand, afterwards. There's so much that goes into it. And winemaking's a lot of the same. Like, if you want to be a very, very good winemaker, then it's going to take years. Not like, you can't just jump on. Like cycling, if you want to be a good bike racer, anybody can be a very good bike racer, but it's going to take years. Yeah. And I feel like it's the exact same with wine. Like, if you have the passion for it and you put in the work, you can be a great winemaker, but it's gonna take years. But if you love like the daily process of it, and that daily work and that grind, then it's worth it. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's so good to hear. I was wondering how you brought this two together. Now, I always ask this practical question. I mean, the people listening I want to inspire them to go out and do the same things, to go out and do crazy stuff. Now, it might sound like a weird question, but I think you understand it. Like, how can we listening to this become lost boys? Like your website and everything is like Lost Boy Wines, or how can we become lost boys or girls or lost men and women? I mean, it sounds quite. I know of people that would become frantic if you tell them just go get lost, and they'll be like, no, I need to know where I'm going. I need to have this. But imagining being a lost person seems so freeing. So how can we adapt that in our everyday lives?
Yeah, I think, for me, and yeah, so I chose that name because of my whole story and how I got here. And like a lot of people view it now as, such a cool thing and an empowering thing and a brave thing that I did. But what I like to point out to people, and I think like the biggest takeaway is it was none of those things when I did it. Like I was properly lost, and like the move here was not like a brave or courageous thing. It was like, I don't know where else to go. Yeah. I don't know what to do. And like, it was pretty scary actually. But I think that is the takeaway. Like, where you are, what you're afraid of, or when you do feel lost, like sometimes it's better to just embrace that and let things happen. Go where you need to go. And I had this narrative of myself for the longest time. I am a bike racer. I race bikes, and like this is what I do. And like my whole identity was wrapped up in that. So this idea of like letting that go and not knowing like what the next identity was going to be was terrifying. But I got to the point where I just embraced that. Like I don't know what I am anymore. I'm going to go try to figure it out.
Yeah. So let's have more terrifying experiences
exactly.
at the cost of growth. That's so cool. And Trevor, thank you so much for taking our time. And I also have a surprise for the people listening. I'm very grateful for this, and I'm sure they will too. For the next 2 weeks, you can go on lostboy.co.za and browse through there, buy as much wine as you want, or as you possibly can. And Trevor agreed that for the next 2 weeks, you can use the following coupon code for 10% discount, TGDT. So for the guy doing things 10 when you check out. Thank you. That's very gracious of you, and I appreciate it so much. And I'm sure the people listening that are going to read your story and drink your wines are going to enjoy it as well. And may you continue being lost, and hopefully our paths will cross one day on the mountain biking trails. It was such a pleasure to talk to you, and all the best with your company as well. I hope it flourishes. And I'm sure I can't wait to have my first sip of Lost Boy wine. And may you enjoy it. And I'm so glad that you found a love in the South African sunsets and the South African people. I'm glad you feel at home here, man.
Pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I just wanted to mention before we go. So I kind of brought up the wildlife thing, but 50 Rand per bottle of every single one of my wines goes to a specific wildlife conservation. All that info is on my website. So all the prices that you see there includes that 50 Rand contribution. And thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to see what your next thing is as well. You kind of hinted at something big coming, so I'm excited.
Yes, I think behind the scenes, maybe I'll let something slip, but it's on its way. It's going to be super awesome, and it's so cool. So now people listening know that if they buy wine, they're not even going to enjoy the wine or the story. They're going to, even more than that, contribute to an awesome cause. So yeah, once again, thank you so much.
Pleasure, man. Thank you.
There you have it. What a legend. What a cool chat. Head over to lostboy.co.za and make sure to get that discount wine. And also give Lost Boy Trev a follow on Instagram. Check what he's up to. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Keep safe. Please wear your mask, sanitize your hands, and drink some wine. Until we meet next time, goodbye.